Hello, welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. Now, today we're going to take a look at this puzzle, which has come in overnight from the Netherlands. And Aad has recommended that we take a look at the puzzles of Aad Van De Wetering, who is a Dutch constructor. And he sent me a couple of examples of Aad's puzzles. And this one immediately struck me as being utterly impossible, not in the sense of impossible to solve, which it may be, but impossible as an idea, as a construction. So how does this work? Well, it's a classic Sudoku, you can see, with additional constraints in the diagonals. So it's sometimes called Sudoku X, which means that we also have to have the numbers from 1 to 9 on the diagonals in some order. But apart from that, look at this number that is going round almost in a circle around this grid, and it may be familiar to some of you because it is pi, 3.14159, etc., to about 20 decimal places in order around the grid. Now, I don't know if you are like me, but I look at that and think that can't possibly be possible to make a Sudoku out of that. And if it is, that is unbelievably clever and imaginative. So I'm very anxious to have a go at this puzzle. I really hope that it's a good puzzle. That would just render it even more extraordinary. I mean, the fact this has a unique solution is mind-boggling. Right, so we're going to have a go. Now, if you want to have a go first, just click on the link under the video, and that'll take you to our web page where you should see exactly what I'm seeing and be able to play the puzzle. And with that, let's have a look at it. Now, the place I normally start with Sudoku X is actually not the numbers that are on the diagonal. I try and find numbers that are not on the diagonal. So these 9s, for example, these are interesting because they rule out 9 from 6 squares along this diagonal. So along with this 9, I know there must be a 9 either here or here. Now, can I actually work out anything better than that? Well, I've got 9s, these 9s, look, I mean there's a 9 there, so now where can the 9 go? Up in this box. So this 9 and this 9 are all interacting to rule out 9s from a lot of the positions, and in fact this 9 at the bottom will force a 9 into one of those squares. I don't know which one, but that rules out that one as well for a 9, so there's only one position for a 9. And that means that's a 9, yeah, and that means that's a 9, and that means there is a 9 in one of those squares and a 9 in one of these squares. So already it's been fruitful to look at numbers not on the diagonals. And so far, the other thing I'd say is that this puzzle is solving very nicely. There's nothing, I mean, it was a very nice first step, almost as if it hadn't been designed using a given constant from nature. Unbelievable. Right, 3s. We've got 3s on, so they're ruling out 3s from these squares. There's a 3 here. And there's a 3 here. So actually, where can a 3 go on this leading diagonal? It can't go in this square because of this 3, and it can't go on the diagonal there because of this 3. So it can only go in that position. Which means this is a 3 because of these 3s. And this is a 3. That 3 up there is ruling out that square. Okay. Right, so far we're not doing too badly. Now let's have a look at this. So there's quite a few places in the grid where we've got these sort of given 3 cells in a row, so we should try and use those a bit. Let's see what we can get out of that. So 2 is forced down here, and this 2 means there's a 2 in one of those squares. 5 is forced down here, which means there's a 5 in one of those 2 positions at the top. But actually 5s, we can do better than that with 5s. Where can we put a 5 on this diagonal? Yeah, because look, we've got this 5 is ruling out these two squares. This 5 is ruling out this square. This 5 is ruling out that square. So I know that the 5 must be on the diagonal in this top left-hand box. So I need to put A5 on the diagonal. And there's only one valid square from the earlier work we did. So that is a 5. Which bizarrely doesn't seem to give me anything at all. There now must be a 4 on this diagonal. And in fact we can do better than that, because that 4 is forcing a 4 into one of those squares, therefore that we actually get the 4, it must be here. Oh, but there's, yeah, and that's nice. Now look at this, this is a lovely step. So this 4 here sees that square. So I now know that the 4 in column 9 is in one of these 3 positions. But there's a 4 up here, look. So it's not here. So the 4 is locked into one of those 2 squares in column 9. Now it matches up exactly with the 4s over in column 3 here. So we now know that we've sort of found all the 4s we're ever going to find in rows 7 and rows 8. So where do we put a 4 in row 9? Well, it can't go here or in any of those squares, so it must be in one of these 2 positions. There's a 4 up there. That's gorgeous. 4, 4. There's a 4 in one of these 2 positions. This must be a 3. This 2 means this must be a 2. It's the only place a 2 can go now in this box. 2 in one of those squares. Actually, there's 2s here as well, ruling out 2s. So there's a 2-9 pair in this box. These squares must be 1, 5 and 6 in some order. So what can we get from that, if anything? So where can 5s go in this box now? There can't be one in either of those squares. This 5 up here rules out that square. This 5 rules out that square, and this 5 rules out that square. Then that must be a 5. So we've now basically got 6 digits in this column. We still need to place 1, 7 and 8. But look, there's a 1 here and a 1 in one of those 3 squares, so the only place a 1 can go in this column is going to be there. There's something going on with 2s. So now, look, we've got 2s in those squares, so I know that the 2 must be either here or here on this diagonal. Now, is there a way of limiting that further? Yes, look, the 2's on the other diagonal. I've not managed to put a 2 on this diagonal either. So in fact, the 2 must go in the middle of the grid. Often actually that's a good place to start looking, so I probably should have looked at that earlier. But that means that gives us a 2 and a 9 there. That gives us a 9 here. These 1s now interact on this block. That must be a 1. Oh, no, not a brown square, just a 1. So 1 here or here. I'm just looking at the diagonals there to see if I can eliminate anything. I'm not sure that I can. That square can't be a 1. These 3 positions here must be 5, 6 and 7 in some order, just because obviously we've got the other 6 digits. That's not a 6, therefore 6, 7. So this down here we need 1, 4 and 8. So that's a 1 or an 8. That's a 4 or an 8. It can't be a 1 because of the 1 along here, look. And this is a 1 or a 4. And this must be a 7 or an 8, and that must be a 7 or an 8 as well. And that must be a 1 or a 7. So let's look at the middle row. What do we need here? We need 4. Oh, there's only one place a 4 can go. Can't go here, and this 4 means it can't go there, so that must be a 4. Now, does that matter? Well, now this is a 4 in this box, so only place a 4 can go. That means that's a 4. Now, I've not managed to put a 4 on this diagonal, so it must be there, because it can't. This 4 rules out that square. So that's a 4. Therefore, this is a 1. Therefore, this is an 8. This is a 7. This is a 1. And all of a sudden, I think we're on a better track now. That must be an 8 down here now. 4, 8. This must be a 4. This must be a 7. What a brilliant puzzle this is. This is just absolutely awesome. Now, these 7s mean we haven't managed to put a 7 on this diagonal yet, so I'm going to put one there. That means that's a 1. I mean, this is quite staggering. Now, this must be a 1. Therefore, that must be an 8. This must be 2 and 6. Can't do anything with that yet. This must be 7 and 8. These two squares, what do they need to be? 6 and 7. Can we get anything from the diagonals here? I feel like we should be able to. I'm probably missing something there. Oh, that's 7 there, means that that must be a 6. That's a 6, so that's a 6, that's a 7. You'll need a 7 on this diagonal. This 6 means that's a 6, that's a 2, that's a 2, that's an 8. 1 here. 5, 6 pairs, so that must be a 1. 2 and 5 into those two squares, and we have a 2 down there. So that's a 2, that's a 5. 5, 6 is now resolved. That must be an 8. 6 and 7 into those squares, so that must be that way round. This must be an 8. It's the only place an 8 can go in this box because of the 8's pencil mark there and this 8 down here. So this square ought to be a 6. That means that one's a 5. That's a 7. This must be a 6, and maybe that's a 5 then. Hopefully that's an 8 and that's a 7. Let's check. Wow, wow, that Aad, that is quite extraordinary to me. I mean, that solved like a very, very nice puzzle. I'm going to be very interested in the comments on this puzzle because I think that is something quite exceptional. Do let us know what you thought. If you do enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. We really appreciate that. And we'll be back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.